If you leave fear to be just fear, it builds in as a monster inside you and then brings in so much of uncertainty. The biggest fear for a human being is the fear of uncertainty. And that creates so many internal psychological battles within us that it does not let us act on the world. That might not be the case, but then the way we run it in our heads, the way we start assuming that things would turn out, could result in a place wherein we get lost, we feel weak, and we find everything tough. Life is tough. Life is very hard. Those are the only two expressions we get out of life today. Even you might be feeling it that way. If you go back to my vlogs and see them, you would find me emphasizing on two important things. One is us human beings, and two is the reality called life. How much of we know of ourselves and how much reality we understand what's happening around us defines the experiences of life. The lesser you know about either of these two, it's going to get hard. If you don't know both of them, that you don't know how good you are, or what is that you understand, and you don't understand what's happening around you in your life, then life is a miserable experience. But if you understand one and not understand other, to some extent it's manageable life, which most of us live in. But the people who really experience a decent life, a life which is filled with satisfaction, happiness, joy, are the ones who understand both. There are two aspects to this. One is you, two is the reality. Reality is what's happening around you, and you is just you. How much of what you think you know do you really understand? And it's basically walking into a space with your resources and trying to execute those resources and see how they go about. Now, if you don't know yourself, so you really don't know what the heck you're doing. Okay, you know yourself to some extent, but if you don't understand the reality which is happening around you, you still will not know how to exercise your resources in this reality, so that whenever you exercise something, you're expecting some desirable results. And they would not be the ones you want. And that's how you learn from reality. There is a master key to live, or at least to pursue, to live a happy, satisfactory, and a joyous life. And that is you. That is your consciousness, and that is your ability to be truthful to yourself. There are many other ways of making it better, but the foundation of everything which you're going to experience in your life, which is going to enhance the experience, either ways, positive or negative, is right inside you. It is sat in you. And that is you. That's the master key. The honest you are about yourself, the honest you are about your abilities, there are two things which will happen. You're willing to learn and you're willing to accept. Both are fantastic things for growth. Now, it could be in a relationship, it could be in a profession, it could be just networking or just experiencing life. You don't have to be offended with things you don't know or don't understand. You could be astonished. You could be excited to know it from here on. But what do we do? Most of us today, living in this world which is infused with data and information which is hugely irrelevant to your life, has so much things going on around you that you want to know almost everything, just the tips and bits of it, and we get an impression that we understand things or we have more information, which we don't. The first thing is, look at yourself and understand how much you know about yourself. How much of your abilities are you comfortable executing? And you know would go the last mile. When you know these two, you're conscious about you're conscious about your abilities. Next thing is what's happening around you, which is by default will start occurring to you. You start realizing stuff which is happening around you because you're a conscious human being. If you live in oblivion, if you live in a state of non-consciousness, which most of us do, life becomes a mystical experience. When I say mystical, you don't know what's coming in. You don't know what's happening to you next minute. You don't know what's going to happen to you the next hour. You don't know nothing. You're just blindly getting into life without knowing anything. And so it becomes a mystic thing. When it becomes a mystic thing, all that you will hold on to is not your abilities, not your confidence. You just hold on to some kind of faith or a belief. It's very easy after that to start blaming everything around you. Now, when you see people blaming about life, mostly you see them blaming things other than them. But the fact is, they are the problem. When the day goes by, it's the same day for everyone. Some are happy, many are not. But what did the day do to them? Has the day affected you in any way? No. What affected was what you did. So now, having spoken a lot about this in my previous vlogs, about being who you are and living in the now, understanding your circumstances, knowing yourself, being conscious, let me move the focus a bit away from here and see what happens to us once we enter life not being prepared for it. You have to be prepared every day, day in and day out, for the rest of your life, to make sense of it and then turn that sense into something which is advantageous to you and use that information to build something you like and experience it that way. That's the holistic way of getting to a space where you have more control or you have an ability to take control if things are going out of your hand. When you're not living life like this, and my intention of this vlog is to get to a place which we all feel and understand that and how that negativity comes across. Now, I'm not talking about how to eliminate negativity in this. I'm just trying to address it in a different way so that probably we can understand negativity to its core and its source. Because I've seen many vlogs where people talked about how to get negativity out of your life or how to manage it or how to be happy. What I think is, how about we go to an experience or go and understand to a space wherein we know how this comes about. One, the most important thing is nothing is negative outside of you. Mark my words, nothing is bad outside of you, nothing is negative outside of you. All that you experience as life and then the way you take it and the way you decipher the information, with what intent you buy that information, defines is it negative or positive. So, who is the one who's filtering the negatives and the positives? Is it life or is it you? It's us. You can take any experiences and turn it in any which way by reasoning it and then accepting it the way you want to. But most of us take it in a negative way and build it up as some kind of a treasure trove and then carry it with us all our life, and that bogs us down. What happens when things go wrong? Or let me say, what happens when things don't go the way you expect them? Or what happens when you don't know what's happening? Two things trigger the negativity of us. These are the two monsters which play on us. One is fear, understand. What is fear? It's again emotional feeling. It's a feeling wherein you are afraid that there is a mortal danger to your existence, or there is a danger or a pain which is awaiting you at the next corner. It could be physical, it could be mental, psychological, you name it, anything. But it's within you. That's your assumption. So it's an emotional feeling. And the next one is anger. Anger is the rejection to accept what has happened. And that's again in you. Both these things are the two budding negativities which go in and decay you from inside out by adding frustration, by getting in sorrow, by making you depressed, and start eating you inside out, and they just bury you. That's it. So the way I see stuff, the way I understand life, the way I see the challenge is to nip it at the bud, and that place is fear and anger. And none of this is available in the rest of the world. I mean, it's not outside in the world, it's all in you. When you feel the expression of fear, or the experience of fear and anger is within us. If you reason out what's happening around you, there could be a very good chance you could beat fear and even anger. So how do you do that? Is only when you're confident about what you can accept, that you understand what is happening around you, understand what happened because of what you did. So you are the dynamic thing in all this situation. So you can map, maybe take a step back, get yourself prepared and come back. Or when you see there is a sense of fear, you try and understand why the fear is there and then address it in that way. But if you leave fear to be just fear, it builds in as a monster inside you and then brings in so much of uncertainty. The biggest fear for a human being is the fear of uncertainty. And that creates so many internal psychological battles within us that it does not let us act on the world. That might not be the case, but then the way we run it in our heads, the way we start assuming that things would turn out, could result in a place wherein we get lost, we feel weak, and we find everything tough. I have experienced this. I have had some experiences in life wherein I had to face an unsavory situation with somebody else. And there were times where I avoided the person not to speak to them, or avoided the problem thinking that it will go away. Or go away is probably wishful thinking, but my fear was that if I face there is something negative coming to me, because I really did not know a reaction coming from the person, because I did not understand the situation myself, but I knew I got myself in trouble. What happened was, it was not my initiative, but I walked in accidentally into this person. And the engagement was surprising. We could talk to each other. I could express what was going wrong, or I could understand why there was this person who was hard bent on seeking me for something which I had not done. There was a miscommunication. But I was scared that this person had a mortal power, had a force, had some name that he could harm me. And I was not able to understand what was going on, and I was trying to avoid it. And then this person was not that interested in getting to me at all. But I knew there was something wrong. But the amount of fear which mounted within was my game, was my doing. Those days of suffering, those days of painful thought, those days of non-productivity did not come from somebody else. Now, if I look at the situation on the hindsight and walked up to this person and said, okay, what went wrong? And why are you seeking me? Or why are we having this conversation? Or why do I feel that there is something wrong? There is a conversation to be had. Maybe, let's look at the flip side of it. Maybe things would have gone wrong. Maybe that person would have gotten angry. Maybe it would have been in a position where I could have been in a position where it could be very harmful. But then I know I'm in that place and I'm trying to solve a problem. Know this, which I have understood after some time. We don't die. We don't suffer. We do it ourselves. We kill ourselves by mind games, by thinking things which don't exist without even addressing them. It's wisely said that we don't die. We kill ourselves. And how? By bad practices, by bad eating habits, by having nothing healthy going on for us, psychologically being worried all the time, and that takes a toll, because end of the day we live in a body which experiences all this as trauma, and this trauma starts killing you slowly and steadily. So if you sleep well, if you address the issues which are coming on your way, more so if you know who you are, and it's very unlikely that you'll get to a position wherein you could get yourself in harm's way. Even if you did, it's at a measurable space, it's a place where you can handle. So the two drivers of our fear, the two drivers which make our life tough, the two drivers which make us miserable are anger and fear. Fear is very easy to manage. There is this superb saying which says, face your fear. It's obvious, isn't it? You can't run away from what's inside you until you take it out and put it out in the open and see it. And if it is coming through, it has to come to some source. It's triggered something inside you, but it's coming from some source. Go to the source. Talk to the source. Or engage with that source. And see what can be done. And that's one way of eliminating fear. And why did fear come into you in the first place? Because you did not know what you're doing, or you were not sure about what you could do, and maybe you did what you're not supposed to be doing. Now, it could be relationships again, it could be personal, it could be professional, it could be anything. I'm not giving examples because they really sound odd and awkward. Because if you are somebody who lies, or if you are somebody who exaggerates, or if you are somebody who is trying to deceive, this is present in most of our conversation to some extent. It's a mix of all this, some more, some less. But the absence of this is going to make your life more clear. And the absence only comes from within. And that is, if you know yourself, you know how much to commit. If you know the surroundings around you, you know how to act. And if you can focus on these two and get fear out, trust me, you just won half the battle. And we have anger, and this is a whole different animal, and a nasty one at that. Everything is manageable, everything can be bet, but the only thing is, are you in sync with you? If you're entering into a fight, are you sure of your capabilities? You might not be as strong as your opponent, but at least are you sure of what you can do? Are you sure of your abilities? Because abilities come in handy depending on the situation. Because whoever your opponent is, nobody is 100%. We all have our own weaknesses. Even if we don't have weaknesses, we also have times where we leave our guards down. That's what you look for. If you see people, the most successful ones, nobody has told you that you need to have all the abilities to be a successful person, but you need one ability, a good one. And in the case of life, in the case of anything, is not to give up. Is to be sure of who you are and keep coming back to your challenge time and over again. If you're coming back to the same challenge time and over again, then you have not understood the challenge. If the challenges are different, then you know that you're moving up. Because as you go up in life, the challenges are going to be bigger, stronger, because you're setting yourself up for it. And when you conquer them, the amount of satisfaction, the amount of comfort you get out of it is pure ecstasy. And that's what is going to make you feel satisfied and have a good night's sleep. A good night's sleep to a person who understands what it is, knows that it is bliss, nothing less than a bliss. So, what are we going to look at when we face a challenge? Are we fearful or not? Never fear, because fear comes within. Nobody incites fear in you. That fear is in you only for the fact that you don't know what's happened, for the fact that you expect to be beat. Then you need to face it. That's the only thing. The confidence you get to face it is go back and understand. Go understand what has happened to you. Understand why are you in this situation. Even though you're not able to make sense of it, but trying to work to understand what's happening and why are you so fearful of anything in front of you would give you the confidence, because you're working on yourself to go at least face it. That's the only way to face fear. The better still is to know who you are. Engage in things you understand. Stay away from stuff which are fancy, are the ones you don't get them at all. You'll always have risk on hand, but make sure it's not too far that you can't reach for help. If your intent is right, the risks you take will reward you. If your intent is wrong, the risk you take could reward you at a short time, but the way they dump you down, you wouldn't want to be in that space. You might not even be able to get up after that. I'm linking all this to fear because fear is the first stone which brings you down to your knees. Assume you have something to do in life. You're walking your life. The first misstep you take, or the first experience of anything which goes wrong, which you don't understand, is fear. If you know the least, the fear is more. That's the first experience of toughness of life. That's the first experience which makes us weak and brings us to the first taste of surrender. So fear is your first enemy. You have to face it. Face it in a way that you understand it. Even if you don't, try and understand what's happening around you. Try and understand yourself. I told you again, nobody takes your life, only you give it away. Get stronger and get smarter. In my next vlog, I'll get to the next monster, and that's anger. Thank you for listening to me today. I'm Raj Khan.